Hey, what's up guys, this is Ben from the New World Order and I'm coming at you now with my Trap Monster Monarch deck. This is my first video filming with my new camera, so if there's any focus issues or anything like that, I will get around that in future videos. But I haven't really looked into how this camera operates so well as I probably should have. So yeah, so if any problems you experience will be sorted. But yeah, right now you just have to bear with me. This deck is ridiculously fun to play, ridiculously annoying to play against, and surprisingly effective as well. The build itself is kind of all over the place in the way that I have like thousands of Monarch deck lists, and you will probably see more of them in upcoming videos. But this particular one basically got made due to the fact that Statue of Anguish pattern and Abyss Stingray got released. I just decided as soon as they got printed to make a deck around them. But there's no specific Monarch the deck runs around because I like most of the Monarchs, and I've only so far found one copy of Caius and one copy of Riser that I could actually get. So it's a bit of a mishmash, but as such it does cover all the bases. So rather than just having Caius to hopefully banish a load of dark monsters, you also have Mobius to take out spells and traps, and then of course Riser to bounce stuff. And he returns stuff from your graveyard T deck as well, so he's pretty good. He appears to be having some problems talking right now. So yeah, please just ignore that. Anyway, monster count. First of all, we only run 3 Mega Monarchs, and those are Caius, Mobius, and Riser. Now, this guy is super important for that triple back row destruction. You don't get it very often, you don't need it very often, but with the game being what it is at the moment, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, because, you know, spell and trap destruction is just so important right now. Next we'll move on to Riser. He can bounce a card on the field and a card in either player's graveyard to the deck, and if you summon Tribute in a wind monster, you bounce 2 cards instead, which is always great. You know, it's like a compulse on legs, especially considering due to the fact that you don't have an extra deck, you don't have Castell or Chidori or anything like that, so yeah, he's good for that. And then Caius, of course, he's just Caius on roids. Summon him, banish card, opponent takes 1,000. If it was tribute summoned by tributing a dark monster, you target 2 cards instead, and for any of those that were dark monsters, every other card with the same name gets banished from the main deck, extra deck, hand, graveyard, so on and so forth. So yeah, he's really important. Now, I don't run Zaborg in this, just in case the opponent doesn't actually have, like, you know, an important extra deck, because there's a lot of decks out there at the moment, like Prediction Princesses, Monarch, for example, that just don't run extra decks, so you side Zaborg rather than maining it, you know, just in case. Now for the actual Monarchs, we've got one Thestalos. This guy is just super awesome. It's just the fact that if you can get him out when the field is actually already yours, you can just limit what your opponent's actually doing. See, that's the main focus of the deck. Due to the fact that we only run 3 Mega Monarchs, we run a lot of regular Monarchs. So you can just tribute them on top of each other and then limit what your opponent's doing. You know, you can have Rises bouncing your opponent's cards back to the hand, and then Thestalos to discard them. If you get enough Monarchs and Return of the Monarch, so you have a constant supply of them, then you can just shut your opponent down essentially. If you have Riser and Caius banishing anything they get on the field, and then once they have nothing on the field, you shut Thestalos down and get rid of something out of the hand, so it limits their options next turn. So yeah, Thestalos plays an important role in this deck. And the card that probably plays the most important role is Rise of the Storm Monarch. Now, I don't remember a point in the game where this was a bad card, but in this particular deck, it is the go-to Monarch, really. If you need to get over something that can't be destroyed by battle, then Rise is your choice. I must request, though, that if you do run something like this, you run 2 Riser, 1 Super, 1 regular gold. That's a must. Next we have 2 Caius. I would like to request that you get Ultra Caiuses, but I have not been able to do so. But yeah, again, he's quite like Riser, but a bit better, especially if the thing you need to get around is a Dark Monster. But yeah, him and Caius sort of rally for who's doing the most important job on the deck, but either of them are pretty important. And finally we run 1 Illusory Snatcher. I would like to run more than that, but to be honest, if you can't get the Tribute Summon off, he's a clog in your hand, because he himself is 2 tributes, I believe, so, you know. But it is great to just shot a Monarch out and then shot him out, and then you've got 2 monsters on field. And if you got the Return of the Monarchs field set up, then you've got a target to tribute for your next Monarch once you've searched it, so it's really good. And finally we have 3 Battle Fader. This guy is unbelievable, and as you will see in upcoming duel videos, there's a running joke with me and my friend Tom with this card. This is the first deck I've ever played that actually runs Battle Fader, but it's definitely not the first time that I've claimed to play Battle Fader. But yeah, he stuffs your opponent's Battle Phase, and then you've got a monster on the field. So of course you've got like a target to tribute for your Monarch next turn, or it's just a good card anyway. And of course, if you special summoned him, and then you have a Caius in hand, or on like a Monarch Storm 4th, you tribute their monster, get the Caius out, banish your own Battle Fader, 1000 your opponent. Just knocked our camera there, deepest apologies for that. Right, next up. We're going into the Trap Monsters next, so a bit of a change up for how we usually do things. I usually go Monster Spell Traps like most people, but yeah, the Trap Monster's coming out next. So this guy is so important in the deck, Statue of Anguish pattern. Basically, while this guy's on the field, if you special summon a Trap Monster, you blow up a card on the field. It's any card. He's got 2/5 defense, so he's really hard to get over. He can be MST'd though, of course, so that's the thing. But if it does get MST'd, you know your opponent wasted an MST on this, and you've still got a safe March of the Monarchs and something like that. So this guy is just super awesome. It's great to have him set with another guy, and then you can just special summon him, and then special summon the other one and pop something. It's just a really all-round fantastic card, and it gives the deck extra pops, which is important because in this particular build there is not a lot of room for staples that destroy stuff. Next we've got 2 Abyss Stingray. Only run it at 2 because all it is really is a speed bump. Not a massively good one at that. It's 1900 attack, can't be destroyed by battle. If you actually want to run an extra deck, which I would not advise, this can be used to overlay with the level 5 Monarchs, so yeah, that's one thing. But yeah, he's mostly in here just as a speed bump, so you still have something on your field during your next turn. Next you have 1 Tiki Soul and 3 Tiki Curse. There is no particular reason for this. Logically, I'd advise running 2 and 2, but yeah, just in practice, it's became a 3-1 build because I only have one of this apparently. But yeah, these guys are really good, especially if you've already got Trap Monsters ready. If you've got a large Trap Monster field, then the deck works without the Monarchs to some extent. So yeah, a Tiki card is very important. Next we have the most important Trap Monsters in the deck, those being the first Monarchs. I was running Quantum Cat, and there are many other Trap Monsters that change their attribute and or type, but this is the main guy for doing that. So special summons an effect monster, level 6, 2/4 defense. If you special summon this way, you can discard a card, then declare 1 attribute, and it becomes that attribute, and it's treated as two tributes for that. So yeah, he is super fucking awesome. He's basically designed for you to get Mega Monarch really easy. When he first came out, he looked like the most OP thing ever, but in the current metagame, he is more than justified. So now moving on to the spell cards, we've got 3 Monarch Storm 4th. I cannot stress how good this card is. If you watch my future deck profiles and future duel videos, you will see how important Monarch Storm 4th is to me. It is one of the best cards we have gotten in a long time, if it's not the best card of all time. This, as far as I'm concerned, makes any level 5 or 6 monster viable. Dark Witch, viable. Time Eater, viable. anything that's level 5 or 6 is viable, because even if it can't do anything while it's on the field, it's destroyed something to get on the field. So, you know, and it makes those monsters that just don't have very good effect better. So yeah, if I ever get around to making battle guards, this will feature at 3 in that. But I don't know how likely that'll be. I sort of side decked that idea. But yeah, anyway, 3 Monarch Stormforth, it's just such a good card. Next up we have 2 March of the Monarchs. You would like to run this at 3, but then it's going to start clogging. It basically makes all of your Monarchs absolute juggernauts. They are not leaving the field unless they are bounced or something. But of course, they can be destroyed by battle if your opponent can get over them. But March of the Monarchs makes them absolutely solid. Next, we've got 2 Tenacity of the Monarchs. Again, you'd like to run this at 3, but it's going to start clogging. If you don't have a monster in your hand, a Monarch in your hand rather, then you can't use its effect, so it's just a clog in your hand. But this is such a refrains from swearing. This is such a great card. Just for the ability to search out your spells and traps, which, you know, it's not something that you often get in decks these days. But with Monarchs get everything. So Monarchs get a spell trap searcher, and then that can be used to search for Return of the Monarchs, or depending on if you've already got a setup, March of the Monarchs if you want to keep stuff around, or Monarch Stormforth if you got something to get around. But yeah, Return of the Monarchs. This is very important. This searches your Monarchs when you summon a Monarch. It is just a fantastic card, but again, you can't run it at 3 because then it starts clogging. Next we have 1 Dark Hole with the triple Stormforth and triple Statue of Anguish pattern, and double Riser, Mega Riser, Caius, and double Caius. There just is not a massive need for monster destruction in the deck. Mostly, your monsters, it's basically a monster mash kind of deck. Even though there's a massively low monster count, backed up by a fairly high trap count, there's just a lot less need for, you know, for monster destruction cards. So one Dark Hole is fine. 2 MST. Again, you've got Mobius and so on and so forth, so you don't really need to run the 3rd copy, but it is very important in the game at the moment. And finally, 1 copy of Extra Net. I would run more than this, but it seems like it doesn't get used very often. But when it does get used, basically, when your opponent special summons from the extra deck, the person who when either player special summons from the extra deck, their opponent draws a card. That's basically it. There's a running joke around this card that you might see in future dueling videos. But yeah, it's an extra draw, because I know they're getting a lot of draw power in the future, but right now Monarchs don't really have anything. They have plenty of searches, but not really any draw power. So yeah. And finally, the traps. Again, only a few, because you know, there's no massive need for them. But Vanity's Emptiness, this is super important, especially due to the fact that you're not special summoning. The only things to special summon are your trap monsters, your battle faders, and your illusory snatches. And if you've got an emptiness on board, well, you just don't do it then, do you? But it shuts down your opponent's extra deck. Whatever they need to use, they can't do anymore. It stops the game when you're playing Monarchs, and it stops the game in a lot of decks, but I don't think in a lot of decks it has the effect that people say it does. But in Monarchs, it really does, because you've got even less chance of something going to your graveyard. I mean, most of the time, if you've got a good setup that's worth protecting with an emptiness, then you have got nothing heading to the graveyard, especially since you've got very few staples. There's no like upstarts or anything, so you're not just sending random cards to the graveyard. 1 breakthrough skill. Yeah, I would like to run this at 2, I'm not going to lie. But nonetheless, it's at 1. A lot of the reason for that is that I'm trying to run this in other decks as well. But it's not super important. It is a great card at the moment, but it's just not super important to the actual deck. And finally, 1 Balance of Judgment. When this first came out, I criticised myself for not using more than 1 copy, but if you use more than 1 copy, you always draw more than 1 copy, and that is always a problem. But this is really good in the game, because if you lose your Monarch, you lose your March. Wait, no you don't. Which one gets destroyed? Oh, it's a totally different card anyway. Anyway, the point is, if you lose your March, you're probably about to lose your Monarch as well. You might lose your return. The point is, and if you don't have your spell set up, you're probably going to have no back row. So the point is, you are more likely than not going to have bugger all on the field, and that's when Balance of Judgment comes in, and suddenly becomes a fantastic card. Now moving on to the extra deck. Well, you don't have an extra deck, so yeah. Normally I advise what cards you could use in your extra deck rather than telling you what to use, but my only advice in this case is to not use an extra deck. So to summarise, the important parts of this deck are really Balance of Judgment for the draw power and Monarch Stormfall. I can't stress how good this card is. If you can run this card in a deck, run this card in your deck. Okay, so that's the deck profile. I should be uploading some more soon. It's kind of dragged on a bit, sorry about that. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. This is Ben from the New World Order signing out.